what is an intimacy coordinator? We've heard that job title thrown around quite a bit here. Even myself, someone that I read a lot about the industry. I have quite a bit of experience in this industry, 11 years going, and I still don't even necessarily know exactly what their job description fully entails. And I know I'm not alone in this, not even as an actor, but I know producers as well seems to be a little confused about this. But my guest today is going to answer that and much, much more. So let's get into it as we go beyond the take. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is me, the host of Beyond the Take podcast, actor and producer as well, here for another episode. Really special guest today, actually, because it's going to be a topic that I even don't necessarily know a whole lot about. As far as like intimacy, intimacy, I can't even say the word, right? Intimacy coordinator, what they bring to the table, what their role is exactly, and how that is changing the game. But also, she has experience being a strike captain, and I think there's a lot that we could dive into right now as SAG-AFTRA goes into negotiations with the studio. So, ladies and gentlemen, she is a podcast host. She's an intimacy coordinator. She is an actress. She has a memoir out right now called She Evolved. Give it up for Kristen Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thank you so much. What an introduction. I love it.
It's a little bit of the wrestling background, a little bit.
That makes perfect sense.
How are you doing today? First off, this is our first time meeting.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining the show. This is the first time I have had someone on the podcast I've never met or I not had a lot of interactions with before. So, this is
Oh,
exciting.
fun. Okay, cool. I like that. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. First and foremost, I'm an educator. So I always appreciate the opportunity to be able to have a platform where I can share some of my knowledge.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to bring to the table here with Beyond the Take podcast, especially in the world of entertainment. A lot of murky waters here going on. I think, we live in a world of social media where I don't know about you because we met on social media. We met on
Right.
Threads,
Yeah.
which great platform I think for entertainers.
Hmm.
I think it's what Twitter used to be.
Hmm.
But correct me if I'm wrong. Do you find that there's a lot of misinformation? I mean, of course, just in general politics, but in the world of entertainment, as far as advice that's given on social media.
Let me put it this way, and this is the only time I will get political in terms of politics. There's as much grifting in the world of entertainment as there is in the world of politics.
Mm,
So
mm,
yes, tons
truth.
of disinformation and misinformation by people who just want to make money off of talent.
Well, I think that's the thing, and like it's just in all different worlds. You see in sports even as well. Like the social media, the algorithm, they reward the clicks, and I think people are definitely aware of that.
Mhm.
The people that are posting this content, that's misinformation or for rage bait,
Oh yeah.
and no matter what, they get rewarded for it.
Yes, absolutely. Which is one of the reasons why I have been really reserved about anything that I post on social media up until this point. As you mentioned, my memoir just came out. And one of the reasons
Yes.
I've been reserved is because I needed to have the memoir out in the public so that I could claim my space because I'm a whistleblower. I'm a whistleblower on the thing that is known as intimacy coordination.
Boom. What a segue. What a great segue right there. I love that. Well, speaking of memoir, I feel like there was definitely a line that stood out here that you said a famous actress once grabbed you and said that this business will chew you up and spit you out. What I
Yes.
want to ask is, what did she see that you don't think you understood quite yet at the time?
So let me just put this in context for the listeners. I was teaching a children's gym class. So my interaction with her was as her child's teacher at the gym. And she asked me, what do you want to be? Because I was 18 at the time. And I knew who she was. She's extremely famous. She's been, in one of the most famous Steven Spielberg movies ever. I hesitate to name names though, because, don't want to get
Right.
any lawsuit going on. But anyway, I grew up in the industry. My father was a professional film critic. So I knew that it was A, I was there as her child's teacher. It wasn't okay to talk about the industry. But B, she asked me a direct question. So I kind of hesitated for a minute. And then I said, well, my whole life, all I've ever wanted to do is be an actor and a dancer and a model. And as soon as those words came out of my mouth, her whole face changed. And she
Wow.
just she just grabbed me and said, "Don't do it.
Oh,
Don't do it." And it was shocking to me. It was absolutely shocking because I couldn't understand. I absolutely could not understand. Why is this woman telling me not to live my dream? She's living my dream. She's successful, she's famous. I didn't really care about fame as much as I cared about doing the job. I love acting. But
you're a real one, that
now,
means.
yeah, exactly. Give me a stage. I don't care if I'm famous. In fact, I don't like the idea of fame. But now looking back, what I know and what I've lived through, she was trying to save me. She was
Mm.
offering me a lifeline, and she was trying to save me from an industry that is so rampant with so many levels of abuse. I can't claim to know what happened to her, but I can guarantee she lived through a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if we do the timeline, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know your age, but like I feel like, you know,
I
there
don't mind
was
sharing. I'm 55.
55.
So this would have been
So,
about 1988.
right. So I was going to speculate, 80s, 90s around there.
Mhm.
And yeah, things were definitely way more out of control as they are now. It's definitely a pre-Me Too movement. And like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like things are still not going on. You
They
know,
are nowhere near what you would think they might be. Yeah, we did not come out of Me Too the way we had hoped to.
all right, let's dive into that then. And how and what way? Like, yeah, I think I have some ideas of like, what the Me Too movement, what it wanted to be, and I feel like it just kind of faded out of nowhere.
Yeah. So one of the things that came out of Me Too is what happens on casting couches and in producers' offices or hotel rooms, et cetera. The whole Harvey Weinstein thing. Everybody learned about that. Everybody knew what was going on there.
I feel like
One thing that
everyone knew. Everyone
everyone
knew.
knew. Everyone knew. If you're an actor in Hollywood, you've had an experience. Period. You have had an experience, or you've known someone who has and has shared. What didn't come out of Me Too is what happens on set on camera and the rampant abuses that happen on camera, which is what my memoir tells. That's where I tell the story of here's what you don't know that we endure as performers. And the fix, I'm going to put that in quotes, um, partially was the idea of this new role of intimacy coordination. So before Me Too and intimacy coordination had a title, um, whenever we were tasked to anything hyper exposed, which means nudity, any level of nudity, or any level of simulated sex, basically what happened was the screenwriters are taught that they are not supposed to give details in their writing, which is wrong, but they're told just write they have sex, just write they have sex, leave it up to the director. So that gets
Oh,
passed on to the director, and the director sees the script and goes, okay, we're going to have a sex scene. And then the director has to imagine, what do I want that scene to look like? And then the director might tell you what position he wants you in, like missionary, doggy style. And then the director just goes, but you know what to do. And that was the most we were ever told. So this is a situation that is absolutely ripe with all kinds of failure. I mean, there's so many ways this can go wrong. And believe me when I tell you, it did at every level all the time. And intimacy coordination was supposed to be the fix for this. It was supposed to be, okay, now we're going to have a person on set who advocates for the actor, who guarantees that the actor doesn't have to do things they don't want to do, who guarantees that the story can still be told. There's a difference between what is the actor doing and what is the story we're telling.
hmm.
So what are we asking? We're asking, what is the actor doing to tell this story? And we can really use movie magic. There's so many things we can do to make sure that the story is being told, but that the actor is safe and protected. So intimacy coordination is supposed to be the position of somebody just like a stunt coordinator who comes in and protects the actors, advocates for the actors, choreographs everything to the detail that you would for a stunt, just like a dance choreography, and also kind of monitors everything that's going on to make sure that the culture on set would change so that we wouldn't have so much sexual harassment. What happened, A, is that the people that created intimacy coordination had every good intention, but they didn't want to include any survivors. That was the first thing I noticed.
Oh,
Because the second I found out about this role, I had already been teaching how sex scenes are filmed. I'd been doing it for years before this became a thing. And so it was natural for me to hear about this and go, oh my God, I'm perfect for this. I was the actress between the sheets. I was sexually harassed. I was sexually assaulted. I was teaching how sex scenes are being filmed. I'm an acting coach of 30 years. I can do this, right? So I joined in, and there were no survivors. These were millennials who came up through theater because intimacy coordination started in theater. And they were transitioning it to film because some of them had some stunt coordination under their belts. And I'm going to say it again, they had the right intentions. But
the execution.
they felt that the trauma that survivors had was so great that they said, we don't want to deal with that. We don't want trauma. Your trauma makes us uncomfortable. That's what I was told. They told me flat out,
They
your
literally
trauma makes,
said that?
they literally said that to me. Your trauma makes everyone uncomfortable. That is a direct quote.
Wow. But it's your trauma that's your, oh, I hate to say, kind of like your superpower in a sense for this type of role
It is.
to
It
help.
is. That's how I can claim that I'm an expert in this,
Right.
right? Because I lived the experience of it. They didn't. So what happened is they said that to me and I walked away. I was like, I'm not going to work with you people. I can see the writing on the wall. I know exactly where you're going to fail, and I'm walking away from you. And I'm just going to do my own thing in my own little corner of the world. I was never intending to teach it. I was just like, I'm out. I'm done. Y'all do your thing. Well, what
Wow.
ended up happening is they got some pushback right in the beginning from the Producers Guild and Directors Guild. So originally, intimacy coordinators were called intimacy directors because truly, if you know what you're doing and you're doing your job correctly, you take over that scene and you direct that scene for the director on the director's behalf with the director's vision.
That makes
So that,
sense.
we're the expert in this one thing, so I'm going to come in and be the expert in this thing and I'm going to direct it. Well, the Directors Guild said, oh, no, you can't call yourselves directors. So they took that away immediately.
Oh,
So
wow.
now we have to be intimacy coordinators if we're working in film because we're not allowed to be called intimacy directors. And if you'll notice on the cover of my book, I put in a director's chair with intimacy director.
Mic
Yeah,
drop.
that's my fuck you to Hollywood. Um, Then what happened is they got more pushback from A-list actors who were saying, no, get out of my space. I need my space. I need my, whatever they were saying. Some A-list actors who are bringing in all the money for the studios and for the union, they have power to say, I don't want this, or I don't like this, or they have the power to say, you can do what you're going to do, but don't include me, right?
Right. I mean, that just happened to Marty Supreme. We heard about that. Yeah.
Exactly. So what happens then is you have A-list actors who are telling production, I don't want the intimacy coordinator to talk to me. How am I supposed to protect people from you if I'm not allowed to talk to you? That
Right.
doesn't work. But the training that is accredited by the union, and here's where I'm a whistleblower, the accredited training that was designed by the union teaches their intimacy coordinators to not approach A-list actors, to step back and just watch and treat them like kindergartners. Like, okay, I'm just going to watch you from a distance. I'm not going to approach you. This does not solve the problem of sexual assault on
That
sets.
does nothing.
It does
That does
nothing.
nothing.
It is so performative. Now, how do I know this? I walked away from them. How do I know this? Because for the last 7 years, I have had intimacy coordinators from around the world who have trained with all of these majorly expensive elitist programs seek me out find my website, come to me and say, I just have questions. I'm confused. I don't understand. Can you please help me? And every time I say yes, and I do it for free, and I get on a Zoom and I answer all of their questions. And every time they go, oh my God, that's not what we were taught. I'm learning so much more from you, because they erased the history of why they need to be there. They are not teaching what the traumas are on camera. So nobody knows how to recognize it when it's in front of their face. And they're not teaching how to stop it or prevent it. So another thing that the directors and the producers did is they told intimacy coordinators, you're not allowed to say cut. And my response to that is, fuck you. If it's my project and you hire me as an intimacy coordinator, I goddamn well better be able to say cut when something's happening.
Now,
Or
is a stunt coordinator, are they allowed to yell cut or no?
what do you think? If a stunt's going wrong, if something's about to go south and somebody's about to get their hand cut off, do you think a stunt coordinator is going to yell cut?
I have not seen it personally in my experience, but
I haven't
are they
either.
allowed to?
I haven't either. So I cannot answer in terms of are they allowed to, but I have experience knowing that stunt coordinators will absolutely stop something in the name of safety,
So then what's the difference?
right?
Like that's crazy.
What is the difference? It's all about power. And so these people who created this, who had the best of intentions, they got sideswiped and they created a situation that made problems worse than better.
That's
So
sad.
I have heard from their students for 7 years how these training programs are run, what's being taught, and how it's being implemented. One of the biggest problems is these programs for intimacy coordination, first of all, cost about $10,000 to become an IC, certified and accredited,
Out of your own pocket.
out of your own pocket.
Jeez Louise.
It's elitist because of that. And it's an incredibly gate-kept profession. They don't want anybody to know their secrets. Who are you
Which is
protecting?
which is why we don't know so much about it, I feel like.
Exactly. So my next book, this first book that I wrote is the proof of my experience, the proof of my expertise. I'm also now writing the textbook, Film Intimacy, a guidebook for every filmmaker, because there's no reason to have this gate-kept information. The problem with that is then people assume and they go out and they make mistakes because they don't know what to do.
Why do you think the industry is doing this?
Why do you think the industry's doing this? I'm going to throw that back at you and see if you have the same thought that I have.
From the sounds of it, from what you're saying, it sounds like, I feel like a lot of different corporations and different industries are doing this. It's just pretty much just a check mark for them to look good, almost like a publicity stunt. Same with like, you see corporations talking about, DEI, or they talked about, being LGBTQ friendly, but yet it's just a check mark. They're not actually doing stuff. And the moment they get pushback, they just reel it back real fast.
100%. It goes a little further than that, but you're on the right track 100%. And I'm glad you mentioned DEI and LGBTQIA, BIPOC, all of that, because here's the thing. In the accredited certified training programs, you are required to study mental health first aid, DEI, LGBTQIA, BIPOC, and sexual harassment prevention. But what's missing is they do not teach anything about filmmaking. They don't teach set etiquette. They don't teach what all of the roles are. They don't teach even the vocabulary of being on a set. So you have people coming into this industry in this role where they're really excited and passionate about wanting to come in and save people and protect people and make sure that their, mental health is, taken care of and protected, and that you have great representation and that there's, diversity and inclusion, but there's no filmmaking training.
Wow.
None.
And that's the
So
biggest part.
it's the biggest part. So you have all these people stepping on set going, well, I am a certified accredited blah, 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 blah. And they get in the way maybe, or they just don't know what to do and they don't know how to talk to all the different departments and they don't understand the lingo. And it's a recipe for disaster.
Especially
So
that
we,
role. Yeah.
especially that role. So we have had for the last 6 to 7 years, we've had a massive amount of pushback and complaining about the intimacy coordinators on set. And it's with good reason because the training is so bad. Part of this problem is that yes, the industry doesn't want the fix because that takes away the power. They don't want somebody to come onto the set and say, you don't get to do that on my set. So when I'm on the set, it's my set, right? If you're on set with me, it's also your set. I'm not saying that's a me thing. I mean, the collaboration of this art for every person in every department, we can claim, this is my set. I'm working on this set. This is my set, right? And every single person has the responsibility when they see something going wrong to be able to say, not on my set.
Mm.
Hollywood doesn't want that.
Yeah, because they view it as their set. Um,
Right.
so this, wow. I mean, and I see now kind of where this is going. I mean, right now we just have it go into like, trending news, I guess, right now. We have this deal that's happening with between Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery.
Right.
You have, the Ellison family controlling a large part of the media between Paramount, Warner Brothers, and even TikTok.
Yeah.
Um,
And now
I
CNN.
and CNN, of course, falls under that umbrella,
Hmm.
which, I find concerning. But now hearing what you're saying, like the Ellisons, and I don't want to assume, but if they are chummy chummy, and I hate to get political, but it's hard not to,
It is.
because it's all interconnected here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with the Ellisons being so chummy with Donald Trump, our president, and we definitely know the mindset they have with women and what's happening here. Uh, do you fear that they're just going to roll this back completely?
Oh, 100%. They already are working on it. They're already
Jesus
working on it.
Christ.
Yeah. So there, let me tell you a little bit more. So here's another way that I know what I know. I personally have now trained intimacy coordinators in 10 other countries outside of the US. What I hear from those filmmakers in other countries about Hollywood and about American filmmakers is horrific. It is horrific. We have a reputation around the world. Things that we do, things that we allow, things that we are so used to happening on sets, people in other countries are like, are you kidding me? We would never treat our people that way, ever.
Wow.
They don't have that attitude of the A-list actor gets to pull all the strings. No way. They don't do that. Everybody's super friendly to each other. Everybody's collaborating. Everybody's working together and understanding that the PA is just as important as the A-list. But an American production that comes overseas and goes to do something, they work with some of the local filmmakers, and the local filmmakers have a lot to say about the Americans and the way we approach this art because it's so abusive.
Which is crazy because, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like most productions overseas aren't necessarily unionized.
Right.
Like we have, hell, SAG-AFTRA put it in the contract this past time around. Also, good segue. Um,
Mhm.
for intimacy coordinators to be on these sets, and it's
Yes.
failing.
Yes.
Like, how does that make sense?
Well, let me tell you something else, because I was in the room with the negotiating committee when we were discussing the language of intimacy coordination, and I was the only one. I was the only intimacy coordinator in the room with the NEGCOM.
Stop it.
I was the only one that showed up so that I could speak about the language, what we should include, what needed to be there. We didn't get everything we wanted,
Oh,
unfortunately.
tell me about
I mean,
it.
on every level, we didn't get
Yeah.
everything we wanted. But even with intimacy coordination, we got it in there, but we didn't get everything we wanted for intimacy coordination. So this is a complex issue, but I'm going to try to explain it as easily as I can. So when we're talking about SAG-AFTRA in negotiations, they're negotiating with the AMPTP. The AMPTP is who they have collective bargaining with, which means they get to have contracts that go back and forth between the production companies and SAG-AFTRA, and agreements are made. The AMPTP represents scripted television and scripted film that is produced by the big studios. Okay. Intimacy coordinators were just got union representation with SAG-AFTRA, and they celebrated that. They were so excited. And now they just last week or the week before finalized what that means in terms of their contract with SAG-AFTRA. But here's the thing that nobody wants to talk about. It's only for AMPTP productions. That's it.
Interesting.
So intimacy coordination on every other production, reality TV, anything that's filmed outside of the purview of the big studios, which is the majority of filmmaking around the world,
Right.
has zero responsibility in terms of intimacy coordination because there's no contracts. There's nothing binding. There's nothing requiring it. SAG-AFTRA says we need to have an intimacy coordinator on every set, but they cannot enforce that outside of the AMPTP productions
Got it.
because they don't have collective bargaining with indie productions. Now they
Got it.
can insist on certain things. I'm not trying to say that there's no intimacy coordinators on these other sets. There certainly are. There are a lot of really good intimacy coordinators out there doing good work. But I'm just trying to explain the politics of this and the contractual obligation of this. So it's so narrow that a handful of intimacy coordinators have these jobs and they're gatekeeping it away from everybody else, and they're making sure that they're the only ones that keep this knowledge and that they're the ones that get these jobs that have this protection.
Wow. Wow. And now, we're in the middle of negotiations. I mean, what do you think this is going to look like here? I mean, um, well, or maybe what do you hope to see happen with the next round of negotiations when it comes to this?
What I hope to see is I hope that the AMPTP learned from these last 2 years and how Hollywood has just done everything wrong over the last 2 years in terms of storytelling and support in terms of, real talent. They've taken all financing away from anything new, unique, different. They don't allow for new voices. Um, they're rolling back everything in terms of the political climate. Um, what I'd hope to see is that they learn the lesson from all of that and go, we need to get back to new and different and unique voices. We need to get back to protecting talent, and that includes crew. When I say talent, I'm not talking about just actors. When I'm on set, I'm protecting cast and crew because the crew is also talented, right? They're
Absolutely.
people who have studied their craft and been in these jobs for years. Crew members are starving. They're losing their homes. They're homeless. I can't tell you how many GoFundMe campaigns I have seen
It's so
for
sad to see. Like, and you're talking about
it's
the worst of it. Like, from what we know is like, everyone's been leveling down because there's
yes.
such fewer jobs. Like, I literally saw someone I knew that was an AD was working on PA
Exactly.
because he needed to work. He needed to be on
Exactly.
set.
And you take what you can get, right? So that's what my fear is. My fear is that they didn't learn a damn thing and that they're just going to continue on this road that they're on. And with this path, what ends up happening is the industry's gutted and we will not have great entertainment. We will no longer see from the big studios, from the AMPTP, we're never again going to get a color purple
Right.
or we're lucky we got something as good as Sinners.
I mean,
It's going to be
Sinners gives me hope though. Like there are a few movies that do give me what A24 is doing gives me hope. Like
A24 is amazing, right?
right, what Neon is doing gives me hope.
Yeah,
And now I know there's going to be a bunch of layoffs that happen when it comes to this merger because that's always inevitable.
yeah,
But like someone brought up a really good point, and like you can call it maybe like being like toxic positivity here, but like I always try to find a silver lining because hell, I mean acting is one of the oldest crafts in the world, right?
it is.
Just entertaining in general,
Yes,
and I refuse to believe that's going to die. I think things are going to change, right? For sure. It's going to be probably much harder to make a living doing this.
in
But
the
the art
interim.
in the interim, right? And I don't necessarily know what's going to evolve into. We might revert back to theater. I don't know.
Yeah,
But I think what I was about to say is, yeah, like with these layoffs, and we've seen it happen before. another talent pool comes up and you're going to get another version of A24, another version of Neon. I think
Mhm.
that will probably be a silver lining there where you see other production companies
That's
come out from this.
100%. I think that's what's going to save us. I think the AMPTP productions are in a death spiral.
Yeah.
That's what's happening because they have CEOs who are only about making the board happy and making sure there's a profit. And
Yes.
all of us who are in it for the art, I'm certainly in it for the art of it. Um, when I choreograph anything for as an intimacy coordinator, when I choreograph a sex scene, I'm putting my art into that moment. I am creating, I am crafting that moment like I would if I'm choreographing a dance number. So I'm in it for the art. I want to see beautiful stories told properly, right? Um, there are so many of us that feel that way. So there's our silver lining. The artists are never going to stop being artists. We just have to find financially how do we make this happen and how do we get our art seen? And there's good and bad. Social media, I personally hate it. I hate what
Same.
it does to us psychologically. I think it's horrific for mental health. I think the disinformation and the bots and the AI and all of that can,
The
put a
algorithm
gash in.
too, like and like what these big tech CEOs are doing, it's almost criminal.
It is,
And
yeah.
they're not held accountable at all.
But with things like social media and YouTube, we can, if we want to, have a platform where we can try to put our art out there and try to reach people. Here I am. That's how you found me in my book. I'm on
Exactly.
social media because that's all I can do in this climate and in this world is to say, here I am, just try
Right.
to
Well,
be
it's
seen.
a double-edged sword. I mean, like with social media and just like AI as well. There are good things. You can use this for good.
Yeah,
But however, it's the bad is what's taking over. It's what we
yeah,
hear about the most, and it's what we see the most because it's unchecked. It's completely
exactly.
unchecked.
Exactly. So I would like to see the studios come back to life the way they used to be, where they really truly cared about the stories that they were telling. But I don't really think that that's going to happen. I think that we're going to have an interim transition where filmmakers outside of the AMPTP and outside of the studios are going to do the A24 thing. They're going to up and come through other venues because they have no choice.
And you're
And
seeing it too. You're seeing it. Like Bleecker Street is another
mhm,
one on the rise. There's a few on the rise here.
yeah,
Uh, and I'm seeing like as a producer myself, like entering the film festivals, like the competition's been absolutely fierce,
yes,
absolutely
yes.
fierce,
Yeah.
probably more than ever.
Well, why do you
And
think that is? Because the production companies that have the finances to back these things aren't backing these things. So now everybody's forced to do film festival circuit.
Yeah, which good and bad, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But it's still a way to create in social media, of course, too. I mean, hell, I just I just literally started doing some sketches with a buddy of mine who lives in Ohio. Like
Mhm.
the fact that we can do that without being there in person is pretty cool,
Yeah.
and that's another way to embrace what's going on to keep up with your craft.
Right.
You
So
know, and
true.
I said about theater. I mean, theater. I'm starting to see a little bit of a rise of like
Emergence.
indie theater.
Hmm.
I hear LA actually is they have a
A lot
rising
of live
theater scene
shows.
over there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard a lot of that. It's interesting you said sketches, and this made me think. I had a student in Spain yesterday ask me, um, do intimacy coordinators ever storyboard? And I had
Oh,
never
that's a
been
great
asked
question.
that before. And I was like, oh my mind's just spiderwebbed into like, oh my gosh, we could do so much with that. Right?
That is
So,
amazing. Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, so many good things can come out of this if we do hold on to those silver lining thoughts and if we do hold on to the passion that we have for our art and our projects. But the downfall is the financial aspect.
Yeah. No, that's the big thing. Yeah.
Look at what actors are being told to do now in terms of their audition process.
Oh, trust me. I
I
got the
saw
whole.
I saw a union production audition instruction sheet that was sent out this last week that said you're inside Home Depot, you walk down the aisle, and then it cuts to you in your car, and then it cuts back to you inside Home Depot, and then it cuts back. And it was like actors are
Yeah.
expected to do that for their audition?
I've only seen that with commercials, and I've only experienced that with commercials. I haven't necessarily experienced it so much with like, regular film and TV, but the commercial ones, it's like, what the f like, what do you
Right. Yeah.
in 24 hours notice? Okay, I guess. I keep my agent happy and
So now the actor is expected to be the producer and the director of all of their auditions with all of the equipment in their own home. Actors don't make money.
or not even in your own home. Like
Yeah,
sometimes like, I had
yeah,
one I
on
had to go to a
location.
train station. I
Yes.
literally had to go to a train station. I have a buddy of mine
Okay.
film this stuff. It was wild.
It's crazy. Okay, I'm from the days when we literally pounded the pavement. So I would have to go to a brick and mortar building and order my headshots, pick them up in person, put my own resume on the back of them, staple them
Oh, I
together,
remember these days.
mail
I
them
remember it.
out. You remember those days?
Yeah, the black and
And
white.
every audition that I had was in person in some studio or office. I got paid for most of my callbacks. They don't do that anymore.
Oh no, yeah, we don't.
No,
I never experienced that one.
you didn't? Yeah, back
No,
in the day, back in the early 90s, if you got a callback, you got paid because that was in our union contract. If it was a SAG-AFTRA production, you got paid for your callback.
it's crazy. Like now you notice the wording that they're using. No memorization required because they don't want to pay. Like because now that was made that was brought up in the last
It was.
SAG after negotiations.
It was. Yeah.
Speaking of the SAG after negotiations, because I could reminisce all day about the good old days. But going
Right.
back to the SAG after negotiations,
Yeah.
you were SAG a strike captain the last time around. We had Fran Drescher lead the way over there. Now we have Sean Astin, Rudy leading the helm there.
Yeah.
Um,
He's a good
you
guy. He's got all the
okay?
right intentions.
Because I was about to ask you,
Yeah,
you know, I don't necessarily know if you know Sean at all or if
I
you had any
do. I
dealings
know.
with him since becoming a
Abs
SAG president.
Yep,
Um,
I do.
is, what is your hope, I guess, in the new leadership? Is there a difference between Fran and Sean? Are there similarities? Is there cause for concern? Because I feel like Fran, I was all about her. I was with it. I wanted to pick a line in New York and in LA. I was all about it, and I couldn't help but feel really let down by Fran, really let
You're not
down,
alone.
and like even her little video thing that she did was had the actors on live talking
Mhm.
about the deal that was made. Like she was like in her bathrobe and whatnot. It was just like, what is happening here? And it was kind of putting down anyone that was talking anything bad about it. And
Yeah.
it was supposed to be an open forum. I was immediately turned off by it. I felt betrayed, actually. And I guess what I'm asking is like, should we have better hope for Sean, or is there a pause for concern?
Let me answer you this way, because I didn't know Fran personally, didn't work with her personally, but I have been in many meetings with Sean. I have worked with Sean on contract language, and I do know Sean personally. So there are two factions within the union,
Mm.
and it's not about being conservative or being liberal. The two factions in the union work more like this. You have this old guard that's like, toe the line, we are union, that's all that matters. And everything goes slowly. The wheels turn slowly, be patient, be patient. And then you have this other side that's like, no, screw that. We have the power to make change. We're going to make this happen. We're going to move forward faster than we think we can because we need to. We don't have an option anymore. We have to fix things. Sean is in that second camp.
Okay.
He's one of those who really tries, he listens to everybody. He really tries to make the wheels turn. Is he going to run up against roadblocks? Absolutely. Of
For
course
sure.
he is.
For
Yeah.
sure.
But
Yeah.
there's so many people in the union that are just like, just be happy you're in the union.
It's too many. Too many people like that.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like sometimes I could come across like anti-union, anti-SAG. I love my union. I love
I
it so
hate my
much.
union.
Well, no, well, here's the thing. I hate what it is right now because I know we can do better. But
Yeah.
like, listen, I still remember the little boy that dreamt about being in SAG and like
Yes.
the excitement when I first got my SAG card.
Yeah.
And just like I love what it's supposed to represent.
Yeah.
And like I love being an actor. I love
Yeah.
this industry,
Of course.
and I get so pissed off just like the lack of voter turnout. I
Mhm.
get pissed off with like sometimes well, a lot of times the disappointment of leadership of letting
Mhm.
us down, that
Yeah.
feeling like they're only looking out for the 1%, not looking out for the rest of us.
Right.
And just also I feel like the lack of communication. I will give Sean Astin this from what I've seen so far, better communication with the
Oh yeah.
members.
Yes.
Like night and
Let
day.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let me explain my statement. The reason I'm working with Sean and the reason I'm working in the union is because I hate the union. So I'm
Mm.
there to try to make it better.
Yeah.
Um, I became eligible to join SAG-AFTRA in 1995 on the set of Showgirls. I mean, I was eligible before that, but I didn't join. And on Showgirls, I was Taft-Hartley because I was gifted a line. And I was also sexually assaulted on the set of Showgirls.
Oh
And
my
when
God, I'm
I
sorry.
turned it in, because this particular person was sexually assaulting many people, I watched it. And then he got to me and I stopped him. And I turned him into the SAG rep on set. And the SAG rep said, oh my gosh, wrote everything down. Okay, okay, I'm going to take care of this. Walked away to go do whatever they needed to do to take care of it. Found me 20 minutes later and said, hey, by the way, you're not allowed to be around that person anymore.
You for him.
Me, around
Wow.
him. And I was like, wait, wait, wait. I just turned him in for sexual assault. And the response from my union that I have not joined yet is that I'm not allowed to go near this actor that is sexually assaulting every woman on this
Jesus
set.
Christ. Again, another letdown.
And that was the moment that I decided I would never join SAG. So I didn't. And when intimacy coordination became a thing, and I hooked up with the people who started intimacy coordination as a mentee they were my mentors. They asked me because they wanted the role to be taken seriously and they wanted the industry to understand how important it was. So they said, we're going to be speaking. All of these survivors are going to come to this meeting in front of the national board and we're going to tell our stories from the set.
Wow.
And they said, but you have to be a SAG member. So they said, will you please join so that you can be at this meeting and tell your story? I said, of
Money,
course.
please.
Yep. So I did. I joined SAG-AFTRA in 2019 so that I could speak in front of that meeting, which I did. And then very soon after that is when they told me, oh, your trauma makes everyone uncomfortable. So
Oh God.
all of us who were survivors that did that for them were used so that they could then take intimacy coordination to the next level. And we were all pushed aside. The union, I then contacted the person in charge of intimacy coordination, had a meeting, went about an hour and a half, and said, here's my story, here's my experience, here's what I have to offer as an educator. I would love to be able to help put into place the requirements and the framework for what we're going to do with intimacy coordination. And the response was, this is amazing. I'll get back to you. And
Of course.
that person who is still in charge won't even speak to me, won't even speak to me on any level. So I have reasons to hate this union. I truly do. But
Yeah.
I'm not
No.
hating on it in a way that I'm not going to have anything to do with it. I care about this art too much. I
Yeah.
care about actors. If I didn't care about actors and their safety, I would not have spent the last 7 years volunteering my time. So you mentioned that I was a strike captain. I went to LA as soon as the strike was called. I think it was week 2. I went to LA for the first time. I did 1 week because I live up in Portland, Oregon. So I flew
Oh,
down to LA. I did 1 week on the lines at Paramount. I became a strike captain at Paramount. And I did a couple days at Sony. And then I flew back home. And then I went down a couple weeks later and I did it again. And I ended up getting sick online. Um, at the executive gate of Paramount, they had to call an ambulance for me.
oh
Super fun.
no. Oh
First
Lord.
medical emergency of the entire strike. Super fun.
Oh, that was
Um,
you?
that was me. Yeah. So I came back home and I thought, I don't want to not help. I want to continue to help. So I created the role of digital strike captain. And I became a communications moderator for every lot in Los Angeles. And I was behind the scenes on my computer live all day, every day that they were out there on the lines picketing. And I was the one behind the scenes making sure everybody knew where everybody was supposed to be, communicating, making sure connections were made. And there were two
Y-
of us that took on that role. And we also set up peer counseling for strike captains because the stuff that was happening out, and you were there, you saw some of it. It was hard. It was
Yeah.
hard work.
Yeah.
And stuff that was happening that we were having to deal with was really, really hard. So we set up kind of like these um, peer-to-peer mental health therapy sessions that we would do at the end of the day or, once a week. So in doing all of that, that's how I ended up getting connected to the negotiating committee. And they asked me to host some meetings that the negotiating committee could come into and speak to all of the strike captains. And so I hosted Zoom meetings for the negotiating committee to speak to the strike captains. And Sean was a standout. He was there at every meeting. He always showed up. He volunteered so much time to this. Um, so I would not have put in that time and that effort if I didn't care about what happens on sets. I do this because I care. But trust me, I want to walk away from this. This is not easy.
That's sad to hear. I mean, like, because, I think we need more people like you that fights a good fight, that care so passionately about this.
Yeah.
Um, because times are tough, man.
Times are tough.
It's
So,
tougher than ever before. Oh,
yeah.
yeah, go on.
So what I did is towards the end of the strike, almost at the end, towards the end of the strike, Michelle Hurd and I were in one of these meetings and we were discussing the language for intimacy coordination. She was the spearhead for that. And she was talking about all of the complaints that they've gotten about intimacy coordinators.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, thank God they know. They know. It's not just me alone in my little teeny tiny corner of the world where all these people are complaining. They're all these people that I sent to SAG and said, please file a complaint. They did. And so they've received hundreds and hundreds of complaints about intimacy coordination. And so Michelle said, we know that there's a problem. We need to fix this problem. Fran Drescher and I are working on it. And I took that as a call to action. And I raised my hand and I said, I have the fix. Like I literally have been sitting on the fix for 5 years at this point. And so I created the first and only nonprofit for film intimacy education. And so
Wow.
I created filmintimacy.org so that I can consult with filmmakers, producers, directors, other intimacy coordinators, actors, anybody who needs a consultation because they don't know what to expect. They don't know what's happening. They don't know what to ask when they're interviewing intimacy coordinators, that kind of thing. And I train intimacy coordinators all over the world. And I don't make any money at this. Not yet. I don't make any money at this. The accredited programs that the union gave the approval to cost $10,000. And I give more information. And I teach filmmaking.
That's insane. That's
So
absolutely
I
insane.
presented all of this to the union. They don't want it.
Stop. Come
No,
on.
they don't want it.
Oh, Jesus. I'm sorry to hear that. Like that's the experience that you've been having. But like, at the same time, I admire your passion because, it, I think anyone else like they would walk away,
I
but
wanted
you're
to,
not but you're not. And
but I'm not.
that's a testament to your passion for this, but also like, just I guess your dedication to make this better.
Yeah.
And you're they say not all superheroes wear capes. Girl, you're it,
Oh,
you know?
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If you, I don't know if you got a chance to read any of my book, but if you
Yeah.
did read any of it, I don't want anybody to go through what I went through. I don't
No,
want
and
anybody to experience the things that I experienced on set that were normalized. And the things that happened to me, and I detail everything in the book, the things that happened to me weren't the worst of it. The thing that happened to me, I could deal with that. What I couldn't deal with was the entire room full of people watching it happen like nothing had happened.
In that, yeah, I feel like I'm the same way. If like I can deal with what happens to me, but if I see what happens to other people, like yeah, no, that especially people I love and care about, like that hits me more.
Yeah.
And like someone once told me too, like I've experienced demons before in the past, et cetera, bottled them up, bottled them up, finally exploded. And I was
Mhm.
speaking to someone about it, and I'll never forget what they said to me years ago, and this really helped me. It's you know, to be more open about my experiences, right?
Yeah.
To like, what I've gone through and what I'm going through. Not to hide it, but to talk about it because at the same time you're helping yourself, but you don't know who you're helping at the same time by talking about
Right.
it. And I
Right.
think, you're on a deeper level with your trauma. It's the fact that like you don't know who you're helping by, open up about it and making sure this doesn't happen to other people.
Right. That's true. It's not easy. It is difficult. But what happened to me on sets was over 30 years ago. I have done the work.
Hmm.
Those demons do not bother me anymore, and it certainly doesn't bother me to talk about it. And that was the problem that they had with me. I had to come to the realization, it took me a long time to figure it out. When they said your trauma makes everyone uncomfortable, what they were actually saying is your comfort in talking about your trauma and detailing it for people makes us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
How do we fix the problems that create the trauma if we can't talk about the thing that was traumatizing?
We have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. That's how we get progress.
Exactly. We have to be willing, not even comfortable with the uncomfortable. We have to be willing to be uncomfortable for a few minutes.
Better said.
And and the thing that's coming out now politically with the Epstein files, I'm connected to a lot of Epstein survivors because I'm a
Oof.
survivor. And we're all working together. And I feel like I have to be connected to them because we're all survivors, which is what matters, right? We're all survivors of people who were in positions of power who abused us. And one of the things that I realized in connecting with that and in really doing some deeper work and in writing my book, I didn't realize this until the book was already being published. My agent in Hollywood tried to sex traffic me.
How, like, I feel like I have so many questions here about that. Like, how, why, like, how did that come to be? Like, how did you find out about that?
Just to give you an idea of the level that we're working at. The same agent that got me into Playboy and into the movie Showgirls, same agent. Before I got those big jobs, what he started with was he was sending me to men's homes, private homes by myself, where men were paying him to do a photo shoot of me, nude. But here's the thing that guy didn't know. I was already a stripper in Hollywood. I have street smarts like nobody else. I mean, I have street smarts in spades because I grew up in Los Angeles. I grew up taking the metro. I mean, I was a child of the 70s. So, by the time I was 12 years old, I was taking the bus by myself from the valley all the way over to Hollywood to meet up with my dad so we could go to a screening. So I understood the world around me. I understood the dangers. My dad taught me how to understand dangers and how to look for people who would try to pick me up off the street, kidnappers, sex traffickers, etc. So every time I went to one of those jobs, and I didn't know until I showed up, I was just given an address and told you've been hired to do this modeling job for a lingerie shoot or, whatever. I'd show up to these homes and there's a guy and it's his house and I'm alone and I'm expected to go in and do a photo shoot. Well, luckily for me, I had all this experience in my life so that I went in with that and I played a game of chess every time. And I never let them anywhere near me. And I had such an attitude that they realized that they couldn't do what they had anticipated doing.
Wow.
When it was happening to me, I just thought, my agent is just an asshole. He's just being a jerk. He's just sending me on these jobs that aren't really jobs. And maybe he's just trying to get me more experience before he sends me to the bigger stuff. All the things that you're programmed with in Hollywood, that was the programming. So I never had a full and complete realization of it until I started reading about survivors of Epstein and sex trafficking and started diving into what does that actually look like. And that's when it dawned on me like, oh my God.
What was the connection for you?
So here's one of the biggest misconceptions. People think that if you Go to somebody's house by choice because you're told, I'm going to go to this house to give a massage as a massage therapist. And then you get there and they expect a happy ending and you're desperate and you need money. So you do the happy ending and then you go back home. People don't understand that that's being trafficked. Epstein sent the masseuse, the underage masseuse, to somebody to give them a massage. They asked for more, or they expected more, or they raped. And then that person goes home at the end of the day and gets paid. That's still being trafficked.
Yeah.
You're not trafficked just in the small capacity of, I've kidnapped you and you're being held captive and you're not allowed to go home. That's not the only way to be trafficked, but that's what I had thought.
Mm.
I was naive to it, so I didn't realize that it had happened to me.
Jesus Christ.
Isn't that insane?
No, that's disturbing and upsetting, and I am so sorry that you went through that. That's
But here's what's even worse. And this is in my book. I worked with girls on the set of Showgirls who were telling stories about their boyfriends. And what they really didn't understand is they weren't their boyfriends. They were a prostitute to a producer who set them up an apartment so he could come over whenever he wanted and paid for them to have an apartment to live in. And the girl thought, this is just my boyfriend. But the producer has a wife and kids and a career, and he just comes over on Thursday nights because you're his Thursday night girl. That still happens today.
yeah,
There
I was
are
about to say that still definitely happens.
so many young and beautiful and talented, and this is not a female thing, this is all genders. So many. All I want to do is be an actor. So I'm going to do the things that I need to do to be an actor, and they don't even realize that they are being trafficked and that they are prostituting themselves. They don't even know.
How can this cycle change? Like, how can we finally break the cycle? Like, just the fact, just the mere fact I'm seeing Harvey Weinstein on trial again, and I don't know why I have a feeling that like this time it's going to go his way. Like, it makes me sick to my stomach. You see, I heard the news of Sean Diddy Combs today. His sentence has been reduced. You hear all these things right now. I mean, just as you talked about the Epstein files, you know, um, like no consequences. And if there are, it's almost like a slap in the wrist, and it's going to be undone. How do we change this?
How do we change this when the President of the United States is a 34 time convicted felon who has been accused as a rapist by countless people, men and women?
Yeah.
This is what we're up against. And this is why I can't stop telling my story. So here's the thing. I don't have anything to lose from Hollywood. I don't work in Hollywood. I don't work with the AMPTP projects. I am not an actor anymore. I can't be an actor anymore because the CPTSD that I have from what I experienced doesn't, I have so much disability in my body that I cannot physically take on being an actor on set for 16 hours a day. What do I have to lose at this point by telling this story? I don't have anything to lose. I've lost it all already. The only thing I have is my story. And I know there are others like me, tons of them, that my story is not unique. But somebody has to be willing to stand up and say, here's the story. Here's what's actually happening. And I'm taking that on and I'm saying, here's what's been happening for decades, and here's what's still happening. And hopefully, by telling the truth and telling the story and calling out the problems, maybe some people will wake up and want to create change. Maybe.
Does what happened with me too, though, dishearten you, though? Because I think we
Oh, yeah.
all felt like that was the moment. And yeah, there was a little bit of change, but like, as we discussed earlier before, it just seemed like it was all for show. And I think a lot of things being rolled back. I mean, hell, we never, uh, Chris Cuomo brought this up. It was a good point by him. Like, yeah, we did all these things, but we never checked back on to see, if these corporations are being held responsible for the ones that like, were gatekeeping these predators.
Yeah.
Like,
No, the predators still get the jobs. Okay, I have a story for you. Here's this. I think the name of this film has changed a couple of times, but uh, I think it was originally called The Postman. Um,
oh, okay.
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so this very well-known actor who is also a very well-known predator, was auditioning for this role. And this is after, this is post Me Too, post intimacy coordinators. We have intimacy coordinators after Me Too. He's going to be playing a serial killer. And in the audition process, while he's auditioning with other women who are going to be playing opposite him, he sexually harasses them to the point where he says to them in the audition, I want you to be so afraid of me that if I'm talking to you and I tell you to sit down, you're going to sit down. And if I tell you I'm going to gag your mouth, I'm going to put a gag in your mouth, I'm going to tie your hands behind your back. I want to see the real fear. I don't want you to think about my character. I want you to be afraid of me. And he takes that to the next level, right? Several of these actresses who were in those auditions went to SAG-AFTRA locally and complained and said, this is what's happening. Okay, now, if I had been contacted, I would have filed police reports. I would have ensured that that person never got to continue with that role. I would have made sure that that person was fired and that they would not be working again, right? Because they traumatized actors in the audition process.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
That's not what happened. What happened was the SAG people who were in charge said, we're going to take care of this. We're going to make sure there's an intimacy coordinator on set. The intimacy coordinator that they got on set isn't even certified.
Shut
It
the,
was just
oh my God.
somebody who was in a position of power in the local that was able to take it on, and they never called a professional. They never talked to the person who was the chairman of the sexual harassment committee. They completely sidestepped everything that they were supposed to do to prevent this from happening. And they allowed this film to film with an untrained intimacy coordinator. And then they went public. They took it another step. They went public. There are articles in the Hollywood Reporter and in Variety about how they were so excited that they took care of this and that they made it okay.
So I always like to be hopeful on this podcast,
I mean,
and like, again, I don't want to be toxic positivity. There's a lot of negative that's going on here. There's a lot that needs to be fixed. Um, and it's some of the things that we're talking about. It's absolutely disgusting and appalling. Um,
so
that
so
like,
here's the silver lining. Let me give you the silver lining. Let me give you the
yes.
hope for this.
Well, I was about to ask, is there any hope, Kristen? Give it to us, please.
Here's the hope. If you see something, you stop it. You say something. Be empowered to stand up and say, not on my set, not in my audition. No. No is the most powerful word that you have. You know how I stopped that guy from assaulting me on the set of Showgirls? I looked him in the eyes as his hand was reaching out for my breast. And I said, did I give you permission to touch me? No, motherfucker, I didn't.
Hell yeah.
He was so taken aback by my attitude that he stumbled because nobody had ever said that. How dare we say that to him? He's a famous actor, right? I don't care who you are. I'm going to tell you no. That's the attitude that every single person needs to empower themselves with so that we can prevent these things, we can stop these things, and we can get rid of the people who allow this to continue.
You're a badass. There's no two ways about it. You definitely are.
You can be too. Everybody
Yeah.
can be.
But I think there's a fear in this industry,
Yes.
because people that get into this and they get that door open for them, and they don't want to lose it, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to lose their footing, they don't want to lose their momentum, they
Hmm.
don't want to be blacklisted, right?
Yeah.
But I'm seeing here, and like I have my own criticisms of Gen Z and the younger generations, but there's something to be admired about what they do because they're taking power into their own hands. I feel like a majority of them do not care about being a movie star.
Right.
You know,
I'm actually really hopeful with Gen Z. Look at the actors on Star Trek. Are you a Star Trek fan at all?
I am not. I'm more of a Star Wars fan, but I
Okay.
listen, respect to Star Trek.
Okay. So the new series, Starfleet Academy, and even the series before that, Strange New Worlds and Discovery. So the last three good series of Star Trek. They have intentionally hired non-binary actors of Gen Z. They've intentionally put in Starfleet Academy, we have a gay Klingon.
I've heard. Yes, I've heard that.
Like, this is phenomenal. We're doing it right. If we want to look to a shining example of doing it right, always look to Star Trek. Because Star Trek, from the get-go, Gene Roddenberry had a vision, and Lucille Ball helped make it happen. Without Lucille Ball, we would not have Star Trek. Did you know
I
that?
actually did not know that. That's I
Yes.
I actually do want to know more about that.
Okay, I'll tell you really quickly. Lucille Ball was also a badass. There are lots of videos that you can look up where if she saw somebody manhandling a woman, she would tell them, "Get your hands off of her."
I've heard so many wonderful stories about Lucille
Amazing
Ball.
woman.
Yeah,
Amazing woman. She was shot down, she was blacklisted, she was told she was not special, she was told she was never going to make it, she was told she wasn't funny. But then she made it and she had power. And the production studios said no to Gene Roddenberry. They said, no, we're not going to make this. Nobody will ever watch it. It's crap. And Lucille Ball said, y'all are wrong. This is amazing. This is a beacon of light. This is something that needs to be told because we need to shine a light on what could potentially become humanity in the future. And so she made it happen. She greenlit the program.
that's amazing. I had
Yeah.
no idea about that.
Yeah.
Another reason to love Lucille Ball, man. Like,
Right?
she's one of one. She's a true trailblazer and has done so much for this industry that I think a lot of women, and I think entertainers in general, could look back on. Like, it all comes back to her.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Another thing, let me throw this out there too, because here's another way that we can be doing it right. One of the things that SAG-AFTRA does for if they're going to accredit an intimacy coordination program is they insist that you have scholarships available. You have to have, I think, 2 scholarships available in every class for LGBTQIA and BIPOC. And my response to that was no. Why? Because I'm going to open the doors so that the entire class can be LGBTQIA BIPOC if they want to be. I'm not going to hold 2 spots and make it so elitist that these people feel like that they're othered. No, I'm going to open the doors so there is no othered. And you know what happened? In the first year of my program, I graduated 40 LGBTQIA BIPOC intimacy coordinators.
that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And it's stuff like that you never hear.
You never hear
And
that.
it's so cool to hear. Before I let you go, I do feel like we got off rails. We never actually fully answered the question here about Sean Astin and what do you think and how do you think his leadership will come into play here in this next round of negotiations and what he could possibly bring to the table for intimacy coordination and alike.
Let me put it this way. I know Sean will do everything he can to make things better for the membership at large, but he's up against a lot of people that are going to not allow that to happen or they
Mm,
don't want that to happen. So when the failures come, it's not for lack of trying. If the failures come, I hope for success. I want him to be successful. He is genuine. He is a really genuine person who cares deeply. I mean, he never had to answer me. He didn't have to reach out to me and talk to me after those meetings. He could have completely ignored me. He didn't. He made sure that I felt seen and heard as somebody who came to him and said, I've been blacklisted. Please help me.
right, right.
So that
And
gives me hope.
that is hopefully here. And like, but what I definitely heard there from that too is like, there's a lot at hand. There's a lot at hand on his plate here as he's entering these round of negotiations here with the AMTP.
Yes.
Um, and I think honestly, I mean, the last negotiations I think failed us in a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of different ways. Like, I was pounding the table for more AI protection myself. You can talk to anyone that I know I voiced my concerns about with the glaring holes in the contract that you could drive a truck through.
Yes.
And I did social during the pandemic. A little background on me. I entered the world of social media managing and whatnot for businesses. And so I feel like AI kind of was first came to like that industry
Hmm.
before entertainment. That was its
Yeah.
first wave. And so I was seeing a lot of it, and I was reading up on it. I became very aware of what AI and its capabilities and what it's doing.
Hmm.
And actors alike, I don't think really understood it, and I think they undersold of what it could do. And I was everything that's been happening right now within the last 3 years, what AI has done, I
Hmm.
called.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have receipts here from friends that text me like, dude, oh my God, you said this. Oh my God, you
You
called this.
called
Oh
it.
my God.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, well, it's too late now. And now they're talking about maybe going 5 years for negotiation. That's it. That's a wrap. If
Right.
that's the case.
So let me just let you know there are a lot of people who voted yes on the contract who didn't want to vote yes. They didn't agree with the contract, but we were at a point in the strike where people were committing suicide. Um, there were multiple cases, mostly, sadly, IATSE members. So IATSE wasn't on strike. It was
But
the
they were affected.
WGA, but they were affected because the
Yeah.
WGA and SAG-AFTRA, which is the writers and the actors, were on strike, which meant nothing could be produced.
Mhm.
So the crew members were out of work. And once we heard not one, not two, but over three suicides because they had lost their entire living and they were losing their homes and they were, these are career talented individuals that many people made the decision to vote yes on this bad contract just to try to get people back to work. We all knew it was a bad contract.
It was a bad contract, but you look at the numbers, though, not so many people voted.
Yeah.
Period. Not
Yeah.
enough. It was alarming.
It was.
Um,
Yes.
and like I understand, like, listen, it's heartbreaking to hear about, anyone committing suicide for any reason,
Right.
especially this. But I understand it. I get it. However, and I hate to say however, we're still here. If anything, it's worse than ever.
It is.
There was more work during that time with like SAG micro budgets than there is now.
I know.
Like
I know. We got screwed.
we got
Flat
screwed
out,
grand
we got
time.
screwed big time. Yes. And
Like
it was very, in my opinion, it was wrong of Fran and Duncan to push this contract down our throats. But I will also say, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, I was in the Zoom with the negotiating committee when we were waiting to hear whether the vote passed or not. They invited me in because I had been helpful behind the scenes and I had done so much work. I'm not part of NEGCOM, but I was honored to be in that room with every single member of the negotiating committee. And let me tell you, I have never seen a group of people that were more exhausted and drained and traumatized by what they had been through because the AMPTP was practicing psychological warfare against our negotiating committee members.
yeah, and that became public and they denied. Um,
No, it actually was real. It was real.
yeah.
I was in the room with
No,
them.
I'm not denying it. I believe that for
Yeah.
sure.
And when we got the notification that it passed, I watched person after person after person completely crumble because they just couldn't believe that the weight of it was off of their shoulders and that they were done.
So it's a relief.
It was
Did
a
they
relief.
know? Did anyone in that room know it was a bad deal?
Yeah, they all did.
They all did.
I think every single person on the negotiating committee wanted, fought for, and hoped for better. They 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 lost the war. They lost the battle.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
In my opinion, from what I know, and I wasn't in the negotiating committee. I
Yeah.
was only in the room at that moment in the end. And what I know is there was a massive sense of relief and we've got work to do. That was immediately it was, oh, thank God it's over. And we have so much work to do to get better.
This makes me sad because and you always kind of knew it, how powerful the AMTP is, how powerful these corporations are. Because like we're focusing on the industry, but like there are many other industries out there where the corporations are just so strong,
Yeah.
and the unions have become weak over time.
Yeah.
because I can go on all day about this. I know we're like way over time that I was supposed to, but
It's okay. I'm
like,
good for time. I don't mind. Sorry, we're giving you a really long podcast.
yeah,
Part
but
two
like
coming.
yeah, I might have to, but like, we live in a capitalist society, and capitalism, I'm not a socialist by any means. Like, capitalism, I think, was meant to be good, but over time, within the last 20 years, we've turned into a stakeholder uh
It's unfettered
capitalistic
capitalism
society.
now.
Yeah, and the unions as a result have become weak, and it sounds like SAG was one of them. It just
Yeah.
became so weak that they all knew it was a bad deal, but they needed to push forward. But we're so far behind now. I mean, in terms of like intimacy coordination and whatnot, like those are guardrails that definitely need to be had. But then you look at AI by itself, and trust me, there's a plethora of reasons of why this deal is bad and what work needs to be done. But AI, number one,
Hmm.
if you're behind the eight ball on that, if you're reactive instead of proactive on that by itself, you lost.
You've lost already. Yeah,
And
it's
like now
gone.
we're 3 years behind the game when
Yes.
the studio's been implementing this since.
Yes. I want
It's
to
only getting better.
clarify. Yeah, I want to clarify. I do think that at that moment, there were people in the room that really believed that they fought for a good contract. And I know that they really truly stood behind that it was better than what we had in terms of AI, because some of the protections that we did get and we had to fight really, really hard for, specifically to AI, were things like, uh, in my world, deep fakes are not allowed in any way. There was I can't remember exactly the parameters of this. I know it went all the way to the government. There were people from Hollywood
Yeah,
that went to the
no, that was
government.
one of the things, yeah, that
That was
came to
one
the
of the things
government.
that came
Yeah.
out of our negotiations for this contract is we were fighting for deep fakes not being allowed. We were fighting for nobody can nobody's image can be used without their consent and pay. So you get paid. If somebody AI grabs your face, you're supposed to get paid for that.
Oh, but
So
it's
that
you're supposed to. You're
supposed to.
supposed to. So that I've been it's forced consent.
Right.
It's
So
forced consent.
it's forced consent. So at that time, they felt like they had gotten at least something of a protection. And I think some of them really believed that it was going to be good.
So I did ask a SAG rep about this because I saw background being cattled to on a set. I'm not going to name the set.
Yeah,
To essentially you're going to get scanned or you're going home,
absolutely.
right?
That's a thing
So
now. Yes.
that was the case. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
so who's keeping track of that? If they're using their likeness,
Right.
because this is one of the things I was predicting that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's like, if they're reused in another scene, another season or whatever, right? And it's a big crowd scene. Who's keeping track of that? You guys keeping
Right.
track of that? They're going to get paid, right? Oh, we don't really have a way of keeping track. The answer was like, it's in good faith. It's just a good faith,
Yeah. No, that doesn't do anything. Good faith
right?
doesn't do
So
anything.
especially for a background actor, I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's easier to prove for like, say you have lines or whatever. It's easier to prove,
Right.
but like for a background actor.
Yeah.
I definitely know people who make their living doing that. They're
Oh, I
gonna
do
get
too.
robbed to pay.
Most of the strike captains were full-time background actors. So I
Yeah,
know a lot of them, and they were fighting hard for this, so hard for this, because it wasn't just that you go in and you show up and you're required to be scanned. Once you're scanned, it's in perpetuity.
exactly. Exactly. So it doesn't even
Like,
have to be the next season. It could be like, down the road or
yep,
spin-off project
yep,
or like, a sequel.
yep,
Um, and like, who's keeping track of that? Oh, it's in good faith. We're working on it, but we don't have anything yet. This is like year two after this contract. Like, what do you mean?
yeah,
What do you mean? Like, this is a
right,
joke.
yeah.
I was so aggravated about that. I had to
You,
walk away just to
right.
calm down.
Oh, I know. And you had every right to be. And it pisses me off too, like to no end. I've had my image stolen. I had a photographer do revenge porn on me, basically, where he
Jesus
took my
Christ.
nude images and sold them to magazines that I never modeled for and that I never would have agreed to. So I know what it is to have my naked image out there in a way that I never consented to, right?
Talking about being
So,
vulnerable. Jesus.
right. So even though that was before digital and before AI, it was happening. So I totally understand the fear of what if my image is taken? What if my voice is stolen? What if, because it happens, because it's real. This is not just somebody making up a fear. We have documented case after case after case of people doing this. So we know that this is the direction it's going in, right?
Right.
And I do believe that some members of the negotiating committee really believed at that time that they had put enough stop gaps in that it would stop that.
Foolish. Foolish, foolish, foolish. Hey, listen, they believe that great. But I
Hopefully they
do,
know better now, right?
but it's too late.
Yeah,
Kristen, it's too late.
I know that's
Like
the problem.
like unless Sean, like is really educated and it really sticks to his guns, which I think then honestly could lead to another strike with this just topic alone, which I don't necessarily think this union could withhold, and I think the studios know that.
Yeah.
Like it's just I don't know. Again, try to be hopeful. This is probably the most grim podcast
I'm
episode
so
I've
sorry.
had. No, 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 no. But like, it's not you. It's not you. It's what's happening itself here.
It's
It's the
these
industry.
very real issues that we need to be discussing. Yes.
Exactly, exactly. Um, and again, I hate to sound like a fear monger or anything like that, but this is reality. This is reality that we live in. And like, I am hopeful from what you're saying about Sean. It sounds like he has great intentions.
Yeah.
Um, it sounds like he does really listen. From what I'm seeing, his limited time so far that he's been in charge, night and day with communications, which was one of my biggest gripes with
Yeah.
SAG. Is like I feel like they did a poor job communicating to the members what's happening,
Yeah.
even like
Horrific.
minor things.
Yeah, they did a horrific job communicating with strike captains. There was no communication about how to strike. We learned everything from the WGA because they had a plan in place. So at the end of the strike, I wrote and created with my other digital strike captain. I shouldn't say we wrote and created a strike survey at the end of the strike so that we could get all the information that we need so that we could then take that information to the union and say, hey, here's what you need to know from the strike captain so we can be prepared if this happens again. Sean saw my strike survey and said, "Oh my gosh." He's like, "I just took a class." I think he just got his master's degree. He was taking his master's degree at that time and he was like, "I just did a class on how to write surveys." He goes, "This is phenomenal." He's like, "This is what we need." So they were using my survey that I wrote and they created strike preparedness committees. And Sean was in charge of it.
Wow.
So now we have strike preparedness committees with information, real world information from the people who did this last strike, this big, huge thing that we all did. So yes, lots of mistakes were made, lots of miscommunication, but some of us stepped up and said, it doesn't have to be this way. Here's the fix, and literally handed them the fix. And they
Right.
are working on it.
Well, we're not going to get everything we want, and that's negotiations 101, right? But like,
Right.
the things that we concede on, like, hopefully aren't detrimental to the future of our livelihoods, which I felt like this past negotiations were.
Yes, I agree.
And you give me a little bit more hope about Sean. From what he's doing so far, it gives me a little bit of hope here.
Yeah.
But we shall see. Just the fact that we're starting negotiations earlier than normal, I think that's a positive sign because it gives more time. I think they understand the magnitude of this one.
Yes.
I don't think anyone really wants to go on strike,
I think I read that Carol Lombardi is no longer in charge of the AMPTP, and she was the biggest
which is
roadblock.
huge. That is huge.
So
Yeah.
we're hoping, fingers crossed, that whoever is in charge now will be a better negotiator and have better intentions.
Hopefully, or worse. No, I'm joking.
No,
No,
worse.
I'm absolutely joking. Kristen, we have gone way over time. This might be a two-parter, but my God, girl, my first time meeting you, and this was a fantastic conversation. I absolutely loved every
Thank you.
second of it.
Thank you.
Just I have so much respect for what you have done, what you've gone through, the fact that you're able to open up and talk about your story, and
Yeah.
but then also try to be the the pathway for action,
Yeah.
um, it's just astounding. So I admire you, girl, and I hope
Thank
we keep
you.
in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Let's keep in touch for sure. I really appreciate the opportunity to do this because, like I said, I have not been saying what I want to say all these years because I needed to have my story public so that people can read my story and go, "Oh, that's how she knows what she knows."
Right. And hey,
And so
listen,
now it's out there.
I'm a girl dad. Right. My
Mhm.
my little girl is 3 years old, turning four soon. Uh,
Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. Proud girl dad. Um, recently she said that, she wants to be an actor like daddy.
Mhm.
Now, she's three. Like, the next day she said she wants to be a teacher like her mommy. So who
Right.
knows? But, the fact she said it is like, oh man, I almost feel like what that actress said to you when you were 18 years old. It's just like, oh,
Well, my dad never let me be a child actor. My dad protected me from it. He
yeah,
was in the industry. He started as a performer. He was an actor. And he switched from being an actor to being a film critic, professional critic. And so I grew up in the industry. I grew up around more famous people than anybody could imagine. And I wanted that more than anything. And dad said no. Last year, my father passed away. And as I
I'm
was
so
cleaning
sorry.
out, thank you, as I was cleaning out his stuff, I found these letters from his talent manager, agent manager from back in the 60s. And I thought, why did dad save these? And I read through the letters. And then it dawned on me dad had been sexually assaulted.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
That's why he
Wow.
saved the letters. So he protected me as a child. But then once I became 18, I was like, I'm still going to do this. This is what I want to do, right?
Right,
What
right.
18-year-old listens to their parent?
Yeah, I don't know any.
Exactly. Yeah. So I applaud you and I agree with you. Let her act in every safe way that you can let her act,
Oh,
but
there's no
do
way I can
not,
stop her from doing anything that she wants. I know that already, but
right?
even
But
she's
but
fierce.
but
But
don't put her in the
yeah,
professional world of it because it is
no.
way too dangerous.
No. And I hope that, like, it was just a moment, whatever. If it's something that she absolutely wants to do, hell, I do not want her being a child actor by any means.
Yeah,
But like I do know like this girl, she's a force to be reckoned with. I'm not just
that's
saying that
awesome.
as her dad. Like this is if you meet this little girl, like she is a little ball of energy.
Love it.
But I'm gonna if she wants to do it, she's gonna do it my way. I
Yep.
have to like, yeah, listen to what I say.
Yep.
I'm gonna make you hate it. And if you still love it after what I'm guiding you to do, then
Hmm.
girl, it's meant for you.
Yeah.
Like that's my attitude towards it.
And teach her street smarts.
Absolutely. But like like I was saying though, but it's people like you though that do give me hope for that. For if one day she wants to pursue this, that there are people out there that will protect her. They'll make
Yes.
sure it's because I'm not gonna be around forever,
Right.
and I'm not they're going to be by your side every single step of the way because I'm sure PA will guide me away. But
Right.
but at least there are people out there that are watching over her, that are
Yeah.
protecting her. And I think what you do is incredibly important. So thank you, Kristen.
You're
And
so welcome. Thanks for having me on.
you're more welcome back anytime, girl.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Wow. Um, that was the most raw episode I think we've had here and Beyond the Take. A lot of stories have been shared here, that left me speechless, that I did not expect to get into. But it was important. It was important. I mentioned before that, like, Kristen's experience is her superpower. It might be the case. I was definitely moved. I was definitely educated. There are a lot of things I did not know about what it went into to be an intimacy coordinator, what their exact job functions were, or even the problems that went around with it. As we entered these SAG negotiations, like, I definitely was aware of like, the things that we need to fight for, like, stronger AI protections, jobs, et cetera, et cetera. But man, this is one of them. This is a problem. This is a problem that definitely needs to be fixed somehow, some way, to make people feel safe on set. I mean, hell, that's why unions were formed to begin with, right? Job protection and safety. Safety, this is a safety issue. If, the people that are supposed to be on this set to protect us aren't trained, the fact that some of them are taking these classes and still have questions about what their job is, that's failure on an epic level right there. And I'm not saying, for every intimacy coordinator, I'm sure there's some great ones out there. But man, I am blown away by what I heard. And the one slither of hope that I have here is, her connection with Sean Astin, the SAG-AFTRA president. As we head into these negotiations, sounds like he's also a real one. And, I just hope for a better turnout. I mean, that's all we could really hope for. But, I think it's important to echo what Kristen said. If you're on a set and you see something, right? To say something. As corny as it sounds, see something, say something. Like that needs to be said. We all worry about our own careers, right? But to what extent? You know, to see someone get harassed, to see someone get demeaned, see someone accosted on a set at your job where you're supposed to feel safe. What if that was you? What if that was your significant other? What if that was your child? What if that was your parent? Would you say something then to save your career? I'm sure you would say something. I think your love for that person would supersede, your aspirations. I hope. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. I don't know. But I am hopeful. I am hopeful. And now I'm rambling because I'm just blown away, man. Blown away by the conversations that we had. So, if you're still listening, if you're still tuning in, you're also a real one. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you. Like, share, subscribe. I think I got that order wrong. Again, still flabbergasted. But thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I love you. Cheers, everyone. Have a good night.